Key point 1. How dysfunctional relationships undermine your happiness. People are social beings. They grow up in families, form different kinds of connections, and communicate daily. Socialization is one of the principal human needs, but what if it brings pain, hurt, and destruction? Relationships profoundly affect a person's mood, motivation, and physical and psychological health. People struggling with family issues often experience problems with sleep, low energy, or depression. Long-lasting dysfunctional communication with loved ones may cause further complications like chronic diseases. Happy relationships lead to a peaceful and balanced life. Few realize that the patterns they use in their romantic encounters may come from the environment they grew up in. For example, analyze your most common arguments with your partner. Does your reaction and behavior remind you of your parents? You may yell, break things, or avoid your loved one and give them the cold shoulder for the next week. In childhood, people often perceive their parents' behavioral patterns as the correct strategies and solutions, and in adulthood, unconsciously apply them to various life challenges. Even seemingly ordinary and happy families can struggle behind closed doors because unhealthy relationships don't always mean abuse, domestic violence, or adultery. Dysfunctional dynamics may reflect toxic conversations, psychological pressure, neglect, lack of respect, or constant drama. Living in such conditions for years teaches people to fight and protect themselves instead of enjoying relationships. Fortunately, as an adult, you can transform your behavior and worldview. It is not easy, but the process is worth it, as it will drastically change your relationships or help you leave them with more ease and less effort. Are you interested in cultivating and enjoying harmonious relationships with your family? Follow along to learn to pinpoint and manage dysfunctional patterns, ultimately improving or severing family ties with peace, acceptance, and grace. Key point 2. Detecting dysfunction is the first step to healing. It's hard to see darkness if you have lived in it for years. Only when you witness the light do the shadows around you reveal themselves. A child raised in an environment where one parent was frequently absent or neglectful may view this absence as a normal family dynamic. Only when they see a healthy relationship where both parents participate in their children's lives will they understand that their upbringing lacked something. A defensive strategy for people in unhealthy families is to cover it up and forget about it. They deny, keep secrets, cultivate shame, and argue instead of acknowledging the problem. For instance, few people can openly discuss destructive behaviors in their families. Most prefer shutting their eyes to it and keeping silent about addressing the issue and seeking a solution. How people engage in the family is usually how they engage in the world. Nedra Glover Tawwab. Childhood trauma has many faces and comes from different events, ranging from living on the road for years to abuse from parents or relatives. Usually, fear of not being understood or being blamed stops kids from sharing these painful truths, and they hide it deep within their psyche until, one day, it leaks into their adult relationships. You may have experienced childhood trauma if you struggle with any one of these issues. Constant frustration, self-sabotage, mistrust, avoidance, difficulty in communicating your needs, suppressing your feelings. Self-analysis will help you discover and address more negative patterns in your mind. Detecting those tendencies will help you eradicate them. Destructive behavior is like a weed. Even if its roots are deep and invisible, you can still pull it out. Therefore, start a journal and answer the following questions. What did your childhood feel like? What emotions arise when you think about your parents? Have you ever felt betrayed, not worthy, or neglected? Using your journal for self-reflection will help you organize your thoughts and discover the pitfalls in your mind. Remember, if you feel extreme mental pain or thoughts that push you to periods of excessive sadness or depression, consider therapy. A psychotherapist can help you understand your feelings and build new patterns. Did you know? According to a Peruk Law article in January 2023, 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men report experiencing violence from their partner. Key point 3. Set boundaries. Reclaim your life. A dysfunctional relationship is not always about a drug-abusing parent or an aggressive sibling. A person may have a loving and supportive family, but they may become toxic when the individual decides to do something differently. For many parents, allowing their children to make mistakes and their own choices seems terrifying, and they attempt to protect their kids at whatever cost. For example, parents may blame their children for choosing a college in another state or for dating a partner they disapprove of. Overprotective relationships sometimes signify codependency or enmeshment. These dysfunctional strategies lie in building extremely close relationships where you cannot differentiate or satisfy your own needs. You are so involved with someone else that you prioritize their thoughts and desires over yours. You will live to the fullest when you put yourself first. Furthermore, a codependent relationship means that one or more members are dependent on each other, and if one of them tries to leave, the rest will push them back because they are breaking their safe environment. If you are trying to create or declare your boundaries, your family's reaction may be feelings of resentment and sadness, shaming or blaming you for their transformation, expressing their discontent, resisting your change. Setting boundaries in a dysfunctional family involves feeling various emotions simultaneously. For example, you may feel frustrated because your parents are fighting again, and you fear leaving because they could hurt each other. So, you must act as a mediator or a peacemaker. It's a harrowing situation to love your family, but realize you can't sacrifice your life to serve their needs. The best option to help someone without sacrificing your time, money, or life is to set an example of how to love and care for yourself. This way, you are not lowering someone's self-worth or letting people use you for their benefit. Self-love shows others that your time, feelings, and choices matter. Detecting codependency is challenging if you live in such an atmosphere and consider it normal. Nonetheless, setting boundaries is a key to unlocking a better future and healthier life. Therefore, try to analyze areas where you need independence from your loved ones. Maybe you struggle to protect your self-expression from your siblings' criticism, or you lack free time because your parents constantly demand your help. Write a few examples and consider how to improve the situation.
Congratulations, you've hit a daily streak.
Key point 4. Transforming an unhealthy relationship takes time and effort. A dysfunctional pattern is challenging to break. Some people believe it's impossible, as children from alcohol abusing or depressed parents are more likely to inherit this destructive habit or illness. So, the longer a specific problem travels from generation to generation, the more complex it will be to eradicate, especially if the person doesn't have support from their loved ones. According to James Prochaska and Carlo Di Clemente, people willing to transform their destructive pattern go through the following stages. Pre-contemplation. You can see something is wrong, but don't know what it is. So you feel hopeless and hurt, and desperately need another person to change. Contemplation. This level signifies awareness. You know where the problem is and can name it, but you don't know how to deal with it. Many go to therapists to untangle the knots of feelings and pain they have lived in for so long. Some remain stuck at this point because now, when they know that there is a particular issue, they must do something about it. But not everyone feels brave enough to take that step. For instance, you may realize the necessity of leaving a violent partner or creating boundaries with a neglecting sibling. Ignorance and denial allow you to stay in your destructive pattern, while awareness pushes you to change. Preparation. This stage signifies vocalizing your needs and boundaries and encouraging others to change their attitudes and behaviors. For example, telling your loved one that their comments about your appearance are offensive can eventually make them stop the destructive habit. Action. Your boundaries and transformation become evident. You are no longer satisfied with simply saying that you don't like someone's attitude or asking them to change it. Instead, you refuse to accept their behavior and show that they can't treat you the same way any longer. Assertiveness and confidence are the primary proof of this stage. Now, you understand that you cannot change another person, so focus on your transformation and prepare to let others go if necessary. Healthy relationships are when you enjoy, not endure them. Maintenance. The final level of change is when your new patterns are consistent, but sometimes you may fall into old thoughts or behaviors. Treat yourself with respect and love whenever it happens, because change is never stable, and you will need all the support you can get. Key point 5. Surviving is not thriving. Many perceive dysfunctional relationships as something completely terrible and impossible to fix. However, the world is not black and white. Sometimes, people expect too much from their families, especially their parents, believing that having children must have made them wiser and more caring. You alone can make yourself happy. Thriving, just like surviving, is a choice. You can view everyone as an enemy and the world as a hostile environment where everyone has to fight for what is theirs. Such an approach will enable you to survive. Or you can focus on analyzing and altering your worldview by considering choices that can make you happy outside of the dysfunctional pattern. When trying to fix your relationship, consider the following tips to accelerate your positive impact. Being the first to break your family's negative behavior loop will be challenging. Be prepared that your loved ones may oppose and push back. Seek support outside the family. Boost positive traits and habits like confidence, speaking up for yourself, setting boundaries, and assertiveness. Register and satisfy your feelings and needs. Avoid living like a victim and pitying yourself, as it will keep you in a negative loop. Determine what you can change now and what will take more time. Learn from the experience. Everything can positively affect you if you notice the lesson it holds. Awareness is the first step toward change. Be patient with the results, but act now. Small steps bring life-changing effects. Accept others as they are and realize that they may never change. Even if you transform your mindset, your loved ones may still choose to remain as they are. Make peace with it. Negative feedback cannot bring positive results. Shaming and blaming your loved ones for their behavior and attitudes will not make them better parents, siblings, or partners. Remain kind and realize that your beliefs about others do not always relate to reality. Check your expectations. Try to see your parents or siblings as people outside your relationships and notice their struggles, worries, and experiences. Finally, remember that you can become a positive change if you show your loved ones a better way with grace and love. Even if it's unprecedented in your family, don't hesitate to express love and appreciation to your parents or siblings. After all, kindness always breeds kindness. Key point 6. When leaving a relationship becomes an option. Some relationships are like a sinking ship. You can escape, or you can drown with it. If that resonated with you, you probably have tried everything you could to save your ties with your family, changing yourself, setting boundaries, voicing your needs, and refusing to settle for less. But nothing worked. In the end, you cannot force people to desire healthy relationships. Honesty isn't betrayal, it's courage. Stop sugarcoating your experiences and allow the truth to free you. Nedra Glover, Tawwab. Society often frowns upon breaking a family, especially if it seems perfectly fine. Furthermore, alienating yourself from one of the family members can lead to loops of self-loathing and remorse. Other relatives can also cultivate your guilt by expressing their doubts and judgments. For many people, blood ties should never be broken. Nonetheless, such perception is toxic as it forces you to accept and allow further abuse, negligence, indifference, pain, or violence. Estrangement from a family member develops differently. Some need a pause or a break, while others want to tear all contact apart. It depends on the pain, anger, or fear they feel. For example, a person whose parents abuse them sexually may never want to see them again. In this case, psychological detachment from parents will not be effective, as a mere look can bring about painful memories. Therefore, physical distance will have a more positive impact, as the person will feel safer and can start their life over again. Your life is the choices you make. Cutting ties with a family member doesn't make you forgive them at once or reconcile with them over time. Forgive and forget doesn't work with childhood trauma or significant family issues. You cannot forget your parents' alcoholism or your grandparents' verbal abuse. But it's okay. Do not allow guilt to affect your emotional well-being or choices. Your life is more valuable than your bloodline. Therefore, you must ensure your happiness and safety before your loved ones can grant it. Family is people who love and support you, not the ones who come from the same family tree. Finally, forgiving someone you love is even more challenging when they refuse to recognize their faults, or if they cannot understand how you feel. Thus, be prepared to forgive, not because you want to continue your relationships, but because forgiveness will set you free and grant you your desired peace. Key point 7. Understanding your parents may heal your relationship with them. Many people suffer from a lack of love, support, and care in childhood. Some cannot build healthy relationships because their parents mistreated or assaulted them. However, many still desire to forgive and rebuild their relationships with their parents. Staying in contact or leaving your parents behind is always your choice. Neither your friends nor your therapist knows what is right for you. However, answering these questions may nudge you in the right direction. How do you see your life if you break the relationship? Will you feel better or worse? What are the principal problems between you? How can you affect or resolve them? Has this person changed over the years? Or are they still doing what they did in your childhood? For example, is your parent still abusing drugs? Or did they overcome the addiction and try to rebuild their life? Do they feel sorry for what they did to you and acknowledge their responsibility? Do they want to restore their relationship with you? How do they demonstrate it? Whatever your decision, you may still resent your parents for the childhood trauma they caused. Blocking or suppressing these emotions will lead to their accumulation. Thus, the best way to deal with anger is to let it be. You must acknowledge your feelings and find a healthy way to release them. For example, through sports like running or boxing. Anger is the outer expression of pain. Sometimes, childhood trauma turns anger into hatred that sucks out your energy and strength and chains you to painful memories and self-pity. The most effective way to diminish or eradicate hatred is to understand who hurt you. Detach yourself from the experience with your parents and try to see them as a separate person. Call them by name, not mom or dad. Ask them what their story is. What environment did they live in? What affected and shaped them into the people they are now? Realize that your parents are just humans who can struggle with finances and mental issues. They make mistakes, raise their children as best as they can, and manage stress and problems their way, even if it's unhealthy. No argument can justify abuse or sexual violence, but understanding leads to compassion. Knowing that your parents grew up in a more dysfunctional family than you did will make you more willing to forget and move on. Conclusion: most people grow up in families, even though not every family is a safe and healthy environment as it should be. Many children suffer abuse and neglect from their parents, siblings, or extended family. Such experiences leave a deep scar on people's lives, and many struggle to overcome their childhood trauma for years or even decades. A dysfunctional pattern goes from violence to indifference. The intensity varies, yet the results are the same. You feel hurt and offended. When these feelings persist, you must analyze where they are coming from. Detecting the problem is the first step to fixing it. Managing or leaving relationships with your family is always your call. Nonetheless, you must realize that each path holds its pitfalls. Breaking a relationship with a family member can make you a traitor in your family's eyes, while trying to manage your connection will demand a transformation and efforts on your side. Whatever decision you make, ensure you are out of the victim loop. Blaming and hating your parents for everything may feel justified, but it will not bring you peace. Only acceptance and forgiveness have the power to heal your life. It doesn't mean you must forget what they did or rebuild your relationship. Letting go means you accept your family as they are and choose to be happy and grateful despite it. Try this. Take a piece of paper or use your journal. Analyze your relationship with a member of your family. It can be a parent or a sibling. What challenges are the most common between you? What patterns bring you pain or discomfort? What behavior would you like to improve or stop? Try to see how your behavior is similar to that family member. Consider how setting healthy boundaries and transforming yourself can resolve the situation.